Welcome to this special edition of Leadership Rules, where we believe leadership isn't just a role, it's a way of life. Whether you're leading a team, a community, or simply leading yourself, we're here to help you unlock the rules to lead your life with purpose and impact. I'm Nick Coniglio, and I'm joined by my co-host, Marnie Stockman. Together, we co-authored Lead It Like Lasso, and we're thrilled today to welcome some friends from the University of Georgia. Go Dogs.
That's right. So today we have the pleasure of talking to Stacey Campbell, director of UGA's Institute for Leadership Advancement, or ILA for short. And we've gotten to know Stacey over the last month or so. Love her. She is our kind of people for sure. And we're even more excited, sorry, Stacey, to welcome two students as well.
I know.
Excellent. Who are in the ILA program. So it is Billig and Robert Black.
And I think excited might be an understatement because Marnie and I have been talking about this since we wrote Lead It Like Lasso over a year ago, getting the perspective of young adults, folks in college. And we are just absolutely thrilled that this is finally happening. So again, big welcome to Stacey, Robert, and EB. And I thought we'd start with some quick introductions. And Stacey, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, I'm Stacey Campbell, and I am the current director of the Institute for Leadership Advancement, ILA for short. I've only been in this position for 2 years. I think Robert and Evie will probably agree. It feels like much longer, but I feel like this was what I was always meant to do. I actually got my PhD at Georgia in the Terry College of Business. And when I was there as a student, I saw the ILA program kind of just beginning. And so to be back here today as the leader of the program is really a dream come true.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
How about you, Robert?
Hey everyone, my name is Robert Black. I am a senior at Georgia studying finance and MIS. I guess a little forward looking, I'm heading to work in Atlanta starting in September at a company called Accenture, which some people might have heard of. But between graduation and then I'm going to be out in Montana doing a lot of fishing and horseback riding. So excited about that as well.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, congratulations on both fronts. That sounds exciting. How about you, EB?
Yeah, so I'm Evie. I'm also a senior finance major here at Georgia. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, but like Robert, I am becoming an Atlanta post-grad, so I'm becoming a Georgia girl, which I'm excited about. I will be working for Merrill, which is a branch of Bank of America doing wealth management starting in August.
I think impressive for sure. ILA and their work habits, I suspect, serve you well. So a little rapid fire icebreaker. EB, I'm going to pick on you first. So fall or spring?
Spring.
Oh, that was easy.
I love football season, but the weather in the spring you can't beat.
Okay, fair.
All right, Robert, for you, Florida or Georgia Tech?
Georgia Tech, because my mom went there.
Okay, all right, you got it. You had an out there. You had an out.
A little harder one for Stacey. Leadership, nature, or nurture?
Oh, nurture.
Fair. The studies would say the same thing, right? I think the studies have said 30% is sort of what you get naturally, and the other 70% is the nurture bit. So I'm with you on that.
Plus, I wouldn't have a job then. So
yes, I was thinking you should say nurture.
I know. Maybe like some cheat notes or something. Yeah.
So before I ask you a question about it, could you describe ILA for folks that haven't heard about it?
Sure. I realized that after I said, I work for ILA, like you should know what that is, because even people at the University of Georgia may not know what ILA is.
Yeah.
It is it's in the Terry College of Business. It's a privately funded institute where we like to say we develop values-based, impact-driven leaders. And we do this through programs that we have. We have 2 certificate programs. Robert is actually in our, or just finishing up the Leonard Leadership Scholars Program, which is a 2-year program for only Terry students. And then Evie is actually in our she finished up last semester our fellows program, which is a 1-year program, both covering the same content. That's kind of how we teach leadership. We do it through content and assessments. First, they need to learn about leadership, and mostly learn about themselves as a leader, right? You can't lead others without knowing yourself. But then the learning's not enough. We then give them chances and opportunities to practice what they're learning, and then also reflect. And I think the reflect piece is kind of, especially for the college students, is something that they don't get a lot of opportunity to do. And I think it's really makes an impact with these students, because they get to kind of see, how did that go? What can I change? What was I able to leverage in that situation? So that's kind of how we do it. We also have lectures, leadership lectures. We have lots of great speakers come in through the ILA program. We also have a professional program that we do for only UGA grads. So, if, for example, Nick, I know your son, Connor, is in Terry. And
Yep.
although I'm very disappointed that he's never applied to the ILA program,
As am I.
when he graduates, say he's out for 2 years and he's kind of looking for some more leadership development, like what's next? We actually have a leadership dogs program that's run out of ILA that's only available to UGA graduates.
What a great
That's kind
resource.
of in a nutshell.
Yeah. I think that's cool to have that post graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Nick and I talk about personal leadership. As a matter of fact, Lead It Like Lasso really is a book on personal leadership, right? It parallels organizational leadership, but that's really super important. So we love that your program is all about helping them focus on what they learn. Curious how you see that impacting their future when your students have done some of that work about themselves, right? When others really have not had that opportunity.
I mean, I could talk about it all day. I think that's why I was so excited to have students, because I see it in them. I see it even from the first semester that they've been in the program to the second semester. These aha moments, and when they really start kind of like, oh, that's why I do this, or that's why that didn't work with the team of students that I was working with. But I also, once they get into their roles, they also come back and say, hey, I'm using so much of the stuff that we learned, right? So you hear that. And then the third thing is they want to come back, because that's also part of, we have 5 values in ILA. So the 5 values for the ILA program, and we really try to design everything that we do to tie back to these values. But responsibility, excellence, integrity, and purpose are 4 values that I think the college students see a lot of. But the stewardship is another thing, like this giving back and kind of paying it forward. And so when students graduate and go on to have these amazing careers, they're coming back, and they're helping to interview for the new classes. They're coming back to talk. We have alumni days. They're giving back. I mean, this is a privately funded institute, so it depends on our alumni actually making a difference with them, that they can then come back and make a difference on the next generation.
Love all that. I love the message about giving back. Marnie and I talk about Bob Berg and the Go-Giver all the time. If you haven't read that book, it's a fantastic book, but he talks about the law of value, creating more value than what you actually take in. But we've got Robert and Evie on the call with us, and we'd love to hear, we've heard Stacey's perspective, right? I'd love to hear from both of you guys, about your perspective and why this personal leadership thing, why investing in personal leadership, especially at this time in your life, why it's worth the time. Either one. Robert, why don't we start with you?
Awesome. Yeah, I would say I was kind of initially introduced to ILA through some people who I had known who did the program, and I was just super interested in it, mostly because the Terry College of Business here especially just throws a million different organizations at you. And honestly, I knew that, my schedule was only so big and I could only fill it up with so many things. And so I really did have to weigh the options of what I actually wanted to get involved with. And ILA was one of the ones that just felt actually like meaningful and fulfilling. There's a lot of things that will fill up a resume and frankly do it very well, but I didn't see ILA as that. I saw it as a lot more. So, it has been such a blessing. And I would say even more so than when I applied, I've understood like investing in personal leadership is so valuable, because I even had leadership positions in college before I started this program. And, my efforts in that was trying to be every kind of leader I could be for every single person. And I think investing in that personal leadership through this program has allowed me to see like, I, in fact, probably never will be every type of leader for every single person. It's just not possible, especially just with like my own strengths and weaknesses. And so it's been really cool to see that in this program and kind of have my eyes open to the things I do really well. But I think people shy away from having their eyes open to their weaknesses. And I think that's been probably one of the best things I could imagine from the program.
Yeah. As Marty and I often say, there's not just one type of leader, right? We all lead in different ways and everyone's a leader. So I love that. Evie, how about you?
Yeah, I would say I had a very similar experience to Robert. I had heard from a lot of older people in my life about ILA and just the great things that they got involved in through it. And I think growing up, high school, college, always was in leadership positions, but I think that didn't make me a leader. Like being in the role was not making me a leader. So I knew that I wanted to grow in my ability to be a leader in who I am. And so when I applied to ILA, honestly had no idea what was about to hit me, and it like wrecked my world in the best way. I think I was very quickly humbled of when I started learning about myself and how I lead and just the way that I've been wired. I was like really surprised by the ways that the gifts that I've been given in leadership, but like Robert said, also a lot of the drawbacks and the weaknesses that I have. But I mean, I did not know the importance of investing in my personal leadership and my leadership development until I came to ILA. And it was cool. I was walking into ILA at the same time that I was going into a leadership position. And so as I was growing in the ILA program, I was translating it to this leadership position, and it changed my perspective on the position completely. And I think that's what investing in your personal leadership does, is it reveals the ways that you can be the best leader, but also the ways that you need to ask for help because maybe you fall short somewhere. So, I mean, I think learning the importance of investing in your leadership development is huge, especially at a young age, because now, I mean, I feel like we have a head start of it's almost like not fair going into the workforce. I have a head start of I know what I'm good at. And when I sit in an interview, I know what my strengths are and I know what my weaknesses are. And so, I mean, I could, like Stacey said, I could talk about ILA for years. It's the best thing I've done at UGA, but I think that is kind of where I'm at post program and just how I've seen ILA affect my leadership.
So that's interesting. Love the idea of getting a head start. So Robert, do you see other folks your age not in the program maybe struggling to be successful, and what would you say holds them back?
I think it's a really good question. I think in the scope of college, the word success gets thrown around a lot, and it's definitely a big deal and is oftentimes blown out of proportion. I would say, like Evie said, I think we have an incredible head start in leadership with this program, but I also think this program gives us a better frame of mind in kind of teaching us that everyone's path to success is completely different. And that's the reason I think a lot of people fall behind in quote unquote being successful in college is their metric of success has nothing to do with where they want to go and what their goals are. It's what other people are doing. And comparison is crazy in this day and age in college. And I just see the Terry College of Business, but I feel like it's a crazy comparison game here. And I get frustrated for people around me and sometimes for myself too, of basing success just off of what other people do when you could be bummed that you don't have a certain job that somebody else has. And then if you actually sat down and said, if I was offered that job, would I take it? Well, oftentimes the answer is no. It's just people base their success off of what other people are doing. And I think the head start that ILA has given us is teaching us like find your path, understand what your goals are, the things that you're passionate about, and don't base that off of what other people are trying to say, because it gets really exhausting when you're trying to fit this mold of what the perfect finance student or what the perfect MIS student looks like.
I mean, the wisdom and it's just very wise. Everything that you just said there, Robert, it's very impressive. And along those lines, and you alluded to this a little bit earlier, Evie, but Robert was talking about the path. You know, and you touched on some of the leadership positions or a leadership position that you were in, and then you started ILA. But are there any specific opportunities that you've been presented with because you were part of ILA, or the converse of that? Is there an opportunity that you would not have been presented with if you hadn't been part of ILA?
Absolutely. I think that there's a lot. A huge one that comes to mind is Stacey earlier talked about the leadership lectures that ILA does. And I remember so clear, I was walking home from class one day and I got an email from the ILA office, and they were like, "Hey, B, we would love for you to interview Dan Amos, the CEO of Aflac." And I was walking up the Lumpkin Hill like in August, drenched in sweat, and I was like, "What is going on?" Like, the CEO of Aflac. And I called my mom and my dad. I was like, "I just think that I got asked to interview like the CEO of a Fortune 500 company." And my dad is like freaking out and all this stuff. But I mean, it was one of the coolest things I have ever done in my whole life. And Dan Amos is an incredible leader and cares so much about Terry and about ILA and just giving back. And I mean, I literally had the opportunity to spend a day hosting a Fortune 500 CEO. And I mean, we sat and we talked about life, and we talked about his grandkids and how he loves to fish and his leadership and all these amazing things. And I mean, when I tell people that, they're like, "How in the world did you do that?" And I genuinely just have to look at them and say, "I don't know. ILA just believed in me." Like, there was nothing I did. I think that ILA just genuinely believed in me and believed that I could do it and encouraged me in that. And I mean, it was an incredible opportunity. I mean, the alumni that they've connected me with, I was doing an alumni of the day, and I sat down and across the table from a guy, and I had no idea who it was. I pretty much just walked into the office and walked into this meeting, and he was like, "Hey, my name's Taylor, and I actually work at Merrill in the Buckhead office." And I was like, "You work at Merrill in the Buckhead office?" I'd never met anyone from Merrill in the Buckhead office. And this ILA alum waltzed into the office, and, you know, it was just such a cool opportunity for me to get connected to somebody that isn't just like, "Oh, I met you once for 20 minutes and now, great, we had an awesome interaction." This is somebody that I have reached out to and made a real and genuine connection with because I have the opportunity to work with this person in the future. And so, I mean, ILA gives so many opportunities in the big things, in the small things, like just the opportunity to work with Athens organizations that you wouldn't normally work with, to do a service learning project where you get to use your skills and use your leadership on a real project and present it to real people. I mean, I could go on and on, but I would say those three are my biggest opportunities I think that ILA has given me.
So what you see me right now is resisting the urge to really just get on the phone with my son and say, "Why did you not do any of this?"
I just sent him an email, you know.
I appreciate that.
I'm thinking everybody listening to this is thinking, "Why didn't I go to UGA? I could sign up for the dogs program."
Well, that's a good point to just that we didn't mention. Unlike any of the other certificate programs, the students that want to get into the ILA program, and funny enough, it's called the Certificate of Personal and Organizational Leadership. I mean, that's officially what's on the transcript, but they have to apply to get into the program. We only take 30 scholars once a year, and we take only 60 fellows every semester. And those fellows are across all of UGA. So when you think about that, it's a pretty competitive program to get into.
Yeah.
I applied 3 times before I got in, so consistency is key.
Well,
Wow.
And to that point, I could tell you that we let people do that because sometimes they don't know, like, what am I supposed to say on this application? And the students that apply and don't get in, and they're high achievers, and if they really want to get in the program, they come in and they talk to us and they ask us questions, and we kind of help them realize, like, what do, like, for that question, what do you really want to tell us?
Yeah.
Because, you said that you want to improve your networking skills, but Evie, you've already had like 3 amazing internships. So you don't have a problem networking. So that's the beauty of like applying again too, is that sometimes it's also just numbers, I mean,
Yep.
where you land. But
Mhm.
we're, I always tell people, like, even your son Connor, the fact that he is not in the program, that's kind of what we do. I mean, like, I'm happy to talk to any student, even if they're not even, at Georgia yet, just to talk about, personal leadership and how important it is.
My brain is spinning and I'm trying to imagine like just I'm sure the folks in the program are quite impressive. The program itself is quite impressive. And thinking about this bit of personal leadership, Robert, this one will be for you. We like to say how you do anything is how you do everything, right? That's one of our mantras. So I'm curious if you can think of something that you love to do in your everyday life, and how your passion or approach, or something you learned from ILA, right? That you said you've learned about your strengths, et cetera, that is sort of transferable to your journey through college, or, what you're planning on afterwards.
Yeah, great question. I would say this is kind of a softball because it fits perfectly with like something in my personal life and in ILA. So about a year ago, I got placed on our service learning project with a group of me and then 4 other girls with a company, or not a company, an organization called Fresh Wind Recovery Ministry. And it was basically an addiction recovery center based around faith for the community of Athens. And I mean, I could speak to that experience a ton, but ILA set it up perfectly because that's something I've always been passionate about, is just my faith in general. And I would say the thing that I do that kind of sets the tone for everything else is I wake up and I spend time in the Bible. That is like kind of a non-negotiable in my life. And it has been such a blessing just because it reminds me of 2 things. First off, like who I'm working for, and also how, like you said, how I do anything is how I do everything. I get up and I do that even when I'm tired, and it sets me off on such a better path for my day to just stay grounded in who I am, and also just to stay grounded in remembering, the things that really matter to me, or the things that deserve my time. And so that's what I really want to live by. And it's been something that, it's not always the easiest thing in the world. And I've definitely strayed from that at times in college, but having that as a habit in the morning has definitely changed the scope of my school days, my non-school days, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, it does
Well
seem like
said.
that was a
Yeah.
softball. I didn't know it was a softball. Nicely done. Yeah.
All right. So as you may or may not know, Marnie and I are kind of obsessed with the show Ted Lasso. And in Ted Lasso, they have this notion of the diamond dogs. Have you guys seen Ted Lasso? Are you guys familiar with it?
Long time
So
ago.
we've kind of related to that. Marnie and I often talk about businesses and how they have a board of advisors, right? And we translate that to personal leadership, to having a personal board of advisors, kind of like your very own diamond dogs, those people that will help guide you, provide honest feedback, people that you trust, really help you grow. So we always ask people, if you have that personal board of advisors, do you have your own version of a diamond dog group? And Evie, I'm curious, do you have such people in your life?
I definitely do. I think that is something that is a great gift that I've been given in my time at college. If I like imagine a board of directors of my life, like a board of advisors, it's a pretty unique group. Like, I would say that I have a mom from the church that I'm plugged into that goes on a walk with me once a week and just listens to my life problems and helps me navigate them through faith and just like walking in wisdom. And I have, I get to lead a college small group, a co-ed college small group here, and I have a co-leader that is really awesome and is really honest with me and knows to point out my strengths, but also is like quick to kind of guide me back when I've strayed and to point out areas that I need improvement in my life. And I live in a house with 3 other girls that love me a lot and want to see me do well and to achieve, but also that want to like see me be well. And so I think having them in my life and in my corner, that when things don't go my way or when I'm stressed or all these things, to have people to remind me like, hey, get back up, pick your head up, like you're fine, you're doing good. And professors, like I came into the ILA office this week and sat down for an hour with Dr. Kachi, who is an incredible professor at ILA. But I mean, I just sat in his office and we talked about life and marriage and the future and all these things, but just people that can give me that outsider's perspective and, like bring me back down to earth a lot whenever I get up in the clouds and get overwhelmed. The people that bring me back down to earth. I mean, they have made the biggest difference in my college career. And I do not think that I would be where I am without those people and without their influence and their ability to encourage me and love on me, but also give me correction when I need it and to put me back on the right path and help me get my head on straight. Because sometimes, we get so caught up in the things of life and in school and all the extracurriculars. And I have a lot of people that can help me come back to what matters. Like Robert talks about, coming back to the thing that is central. So for me, my faith, or like getting grounded back in my friendships and things like that.
I love that. And I love how you talk about, I think a lot of people that we talk to who are just kind of starting out and, pursuing their first career, when they talk about those people that are around them, they don't necessarily think of the people that challenge them, having a challenge network. And you kind of alluded to that, bringing you back down sometimes when you're up here. I think that's something that I learned later in life, just because I was stubborn and I didn't want to hear somebody challenge me. And I really appreciate the fact that you guys have identified that right out of the gate. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you made me think when my daughter was in college, she called me one time and she freely admits that she called me because she needed me to say like, nah, knock it off. Like you're just getting into the drama. And she was like, yeah, that's exactly, I needed a telephone slap in the face of like, mom will just say, no, ma'am, like get it together. And now that she's teaching children, it's interesting. She will come back and say like, oh, I see what you did there, mom, as I was growing up. So knowing, I'm going to remind her when I see her that I'm part of her challenge network in case she had forgotten. So thank you for that.
And I think that's something that ILA has done a good job of teaching us, is like being challenged is a really good thing and being out of your comfort zone is a good thing. But you also, when we take these personality tests, it's like you get told the good things and you get told the things that you're really good at, but you also get told the things that you're probably really bad at and that you need to like improve on. And so I think that is something throughout college, like Nick said, I'm stubborn and I think I know best. And I have come to learn that I just do not. And I am just a 21-year-old college student that doesn't know everything. But I think that is a lesson that ILA has definitely instilled in me, is the importance of being able to take that feedback and stepping back and understanding that when people are challenging me, it's because they love me and they want me to be better, not because they're trying to criticize me or, say that I'm doing something wrong. But understanding the value in criticism is a really, really hard lesson to learn, but I think one that ILA teaches really well.
Well, knowing how competitive the program is, first, I suspect not a lot of people challenge folks in the program initially, like growing up, because they were always right. Right? So you don't really get set up to learn how to be challenged when you are a high achiever along the way. Right? And then you've done this for so long. It's like chicken and egg. Like you can't learn to be wrong because you really haven't been wrong. So how do you learn to accept that? So that whole vulnerability piece, I think we think it's really important. We talk about that piece in leadership. But yeah, I suspect a room of 30 or 60 high achieving folks learning to take feedback is really powerful.
And then try to put them on a team together and say, who's going to be the leader?
Right. Yeah. And they've all done that naturally their entire lives. Yeah. I mean, you're speaking to a girl who was like told she was bossy at age 5 and still gets told that. So I hear you. I hear Robert and Evie for sure. And I can tell you that Nick is absolutely a diamond dog for me, and who will challenge me which is important. I need that. So Stacey, I have one last question for you. Nick and I love leadership rules, right? That's why this podcast is titled Leadership Rules. And we talk about a ton of our own in the book. So if you could pick a leadership rule to live by, what would you say?
You know what? And there's so many, there's a lot out there.
There's so many. It's not like you can't think of one. You can think of 1,000.
Well, I want to give you a quote, right, from Winston Churchill, right? But I do really think it sums everything up. We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. And so that's kind of why I do this. I mean, there's many things I could have done. I do think that even, these students, like, I could tell you that I had to think really hard, like, who should I pick? But like any of the students, I feel like would have been jumping and to be able to just like, sure, what can I do? What can I, do to help? And when you are that kind of leader, like, and for them, they know when they start their careers, it's not so much about what they're getting. It's also like being proactive about how you could give more and learn more and collaborate more, because that's how you'll be successful and really make an impact.
Well, I think you nailed that. I thought that was awesome.
Well, it wasn't my quote. So
well, I know, but it's perfectly applicable to the entire message that Stacey, Robert, EB, you guys have brought to the table today. So this has been awesome. Stacey, again, can you, for anyone that's listening and is interested, where would they find out more information about UGA's ILA program?
Well, if they could go on to the website. So if they went to Terry College and looked up the Institute for Leadership Advancement, for sure they would be able to find some information. Anyone could email me at stacy.campbell@uga.edu. So I'm always happy to talk about ILA. Just like you're always happy to talk about, Lasso. So
love that.
Feel free to reach out.
Awesome. We'll put the link in the show notes. And Robert and Evie, I truly hope that we get connected on LinkedIn if we're not already. I know I sent some requests, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with your life. This is exciting. You guys are very impressive. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you
for having us.
Yeah,
awesome. Sorry, the lights went out on me. Wave my hand and get it back on.
There's so much brain power out in there that you guys are draining.
Shut it down.
Power. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again, y'all. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Okay.